Right. Hello, everybody. This is the Teacher Success Coach with another episode of Female Empowerment, which is a Wednesday show. It actually is a spin-off from International Women's Month. So I did International Women's Month instead of just today on Wednesdays, and I was having a show every Wednesday. So when that actually finished in the month of March, actually started off, or that was a springboard from International Women's Month. So we actually have an empowerment show on a Wednesday where I speak to women about their journey and in terms of the jobs they've done or the job they're doing now that have actually forced them to become more empowered than they were already. Some women might become more empowered when they actually went through a divorce and realized that they had to now navigate a new normal for them. So as a result of that, they might decide to become self-employed or become an entrepreneur. And as a result of that, they had no choice than to be empowered because there was nobody there for them except themselves. So I'm welcoming another female education on the show, a female from across the world. Welcome, 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 Karen. Thank you very much for accepting the offer to come on. Introduce yourself. I'm so grateful that you accept the offer to come on. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us where you come from and tell us what you do and about your journey.
My name is Karen Hanson. I am from Toronto, Canada. I am a real estate agent, something I've been doing for 10 years now. I absolutely love what I do. It's the longest job I've ever had. So it was a tough industry to break into, but once you allow yourself to succeed and you really keep going, it's been something that has been a great success to me, and I continue to do it.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. Another one of the questions I want to ask you is the fact that this is a very much male-dominated industry. Yes. As a woman, how have it been for you navigating your space in that industry?
I would say that from my experience, I feel as though entering into the industry, I was respected. My opinion was valued. I wasn't looked in any other way. Although I would say this because so sorry. It's a really great day here in Toronto. It's very sunny, but a little bit windy. So I apologize. I would say that getting into real estate, I interviewed a lot of real estate brokers because here in Canada, when you're going to be selling real estate, you sign on with a company. So I interviewed a lot of great brokers before I joined, and my broker is a really strong female real estate agent or real estate broker within the industry. She's really well known, really well respected. So I learned a lot of my training from her. So every time I enter the room, I'm entering with confidence because I know that I learned from somebody who knew their stuff.
That's brilliant, though. The fact that your mentor was a woman. So it actually, I suppose it actually gave you that confidence because you could actually see someone who was actually made it in that industry.
Exactly.
It is really brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay. One of the questions I've got several questions. We may not get through all of them, but we'll try. What institutional societal changes need to be made for women to be empowered? So what changes need to be made within the institution and society to enable women to become empowered?
I feel like right now it's just continuing to take up space so our voices are being heard, because I feel like when I was younger, the world of women empowerment and where we are now was not the same when I was growing up. And even though I'm only in my 30s now, just seeing from high school to now, the level of mentorship, the amount of women I'm seeing speak up and I'm hearing their voices, I'm seeing them on larger platforms. I feel like that is an opportunity that we still need to continue to grow in regards to seeing us on bigger platforms and seeing us speak and hearing our voices. I think that's very important. And just making space and understanding that our voices are valuable and we come with a lot to bring to the table.
I totally agree with you there, because years ago, when, in terms of when we were trying to break through, it was much harder.
Yes.
Right. Although one could say it is still difficult now, but we now have a greater platform than we did.
Exactly.
So I feel that's a plus. And as you rightly say, we just need to continue to hold space.
Yes.
Which is so very important. Thank you. What do you think is the most significant barriers to female empowerment? So what do you think are the barriers that prevent us from becoming empowered?
I still think there's, unfortunately, in society, there's still stigmas. There's still the male higher ups who are kind of like, okay, well, if we promote her and she doesn't have kids yet, or this happens, that's still a very big stigma in many industries. It's like, are they going to have time? Because these are things that are going to be changing. Now, a lot of things have changed over time, but I also think another big barrier is that it also comes down to holding that space. If we're not there to be mentors for the other people who are going to be brought up after us, it's hard for anyone to gain that confidence to say, I'm going to create that space when they don't have mentors to look up to. So I feel like, although there are many powerful women, there are a lot of great mentors. I think having access to, like, I could watch Oprah on TV, I could watch Oprah on Instagram, on YouTube, on many different platforms, but it's having direct access. People in my own community, people who are close to me. I can look up to celebrities and be like, wow, look at Beyonce, look at what Rihanna's done, look at what Oprah's done, look at what they've built. But that's on such a grand scheme that I think a barrier is that seeing people who are on our level, who are doing it, who are in our community, who are doing this, who I can actually access. Because I can't just go online and send Oprah an email and be like, hey, that's just not a thing. So it's like finding the right mentors and people in the community who are doing this and who have created that voice for themselves.
Thank you. It's interesting because last week, that's exactly what my guest said as well. It's okay to see the people there, but you cannot touch them. Yeah. You need to have people on your level that you could actually, as you rightly said, send an email to and say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, Z, can I come and watch you? Or, any of those things, which is very true, very, very true. Another thing is, do you think women are also a barrier? Other women, or do you think other women are also a barrier?
I do, in a sense. For me personally, I'm finding that kind of women coming together and women working together is still a very new atmosphere. Because even when I started in my field, women empowerment and women coming together, women working together, women not competing against each other was not what it is now. Now I have a lot more close relationships because I'll be completely honest, even though I had an amazing broker getting into the industry, a lot of the people that I partnered with when I got into real estate, they were males. And I didn't have a lot of partnerships. Now, most of my partnerships and anyone who I pick up my phone and call like, hey, I need help with this. Are you going to be available? I have a circle of amazing female realtors around me, which I absolutely love. But getting into the industry, again, it was very male dominated. So I think women in regards to competition and seeing ourselves as competition was a very big thing. Whereas now opening up and sisterhood and womanhood and empowering each other, lifting each other up, because we realize that there's power in numbers now. I think there's a really big difference in that. But when you don't have that mentality to be lifting each other up, I think we are a barrier to ourselves because we don't understand the concept of actually coming together to do more.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very true. Thank you. It's lovely the way you actually made those distinctions, because it is true. Is when women understand the power and their power of coming together as a united front, and that there's no need for competition. We need to collaborate, because in numbers we could do such great things, because we all are so unique. There's no need to compete. There's enough room in the sea for all of
There's
us.
enough room.
Exactly. And it's like women actually being confident enough to realize that, oh my goodness, I don't have to compete with another sister.
Yeah,
All I have to do is, okay, let's get together. We might be doing the same thing, but we're coming from different angle. But it's like the
exactly.
confidence, having the confidence enough to feel that it is okay. And I
Yes.
think that's it. You answer that so beautifully in terms of, the coming together and the increasing numbers. That really is good. Thank you for that. Um, how do you empower yourself and other women around you?
Um, hmm. For myself, um, being empowered, being motivated, I follow and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I see different dynamics. I see dynamics in podcasts where maybe it's a solo female, maybe she has a male co-host, just seeing different dynamics and really keeping myself engaged, not only in my industry of which I work, but also just in regards to just maneuvering through life
Mhm,
and understanding other people's stories, seeing other people's stories,
mhm,
and just also
mhm,
maintaining faith in order to stay empowered, to stay engaged, to stay where I need to be, in a mindset where I need to be in order to continue to keep going.
mhm,
One way that I'd say I do social a lot. I do a lot of videos, and something for me that I found, again, when we talk about mentorship, I hop on a lot of calls with potentially new real estate agents who are thinking about getting into the market, getting into the field, and they're nervous. I hop on a lot of coaching calls with them, just helping to guide them through, helping them to better understand. And one of my biggest things is always to be transparent. I try and be transparent with people, because when you get in, I want you to feel excited. I don't want you to be shocked. There's going
mhm,
to be different things that shock you, but I try and be as transparent as possible.
mhm,
And I, even in the way that I present myself on social, I have the great angle of how things go, but I also share the not so great sides of things, because I think that is also very important in
yeah.
empowering people. It's not just sharing all the good, it's
Mhm,
also understanding how to navigate through the things that aren't so great.
mhm, mhm, mhm. That is very, very true. That is so powerful, because too often, when you see people on social media, they show all the glamour,
Yes.
and people thinking, oh, this is the life of the glamour. Only when they get into it, they realize, hold on, this doesn't make sense.
This
It
doesn't make sense. This is harder than I was anticipating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And I think honesty is the best policy, no matter how challenging it is.
Yes. And I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to encourage people and get them and get them motivated, because sometimes it could be that you have a conversation and you realize, like, maybe this isn't for me, but having those conversations with the right people and having mentors around you, it really helps to get you through that process.
Yeah, it is very true. Because at least they're honest with you.
Exactly.
So therefore when you're making a decision, you're able to make a most informed decision, because you've got the information to do that, which is very, very important.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. Another question is, what do we need to do to engage and inspire male advocates? So we know there are some male who wants to be on our side. So what could we do to inspire them and engage them to continue to support us?
I think in order to have them continue to support us, it's understanding that allyship comes in many different forms,
Mhm,
and understanding how to include them. But I think what comes with inclusion is also understanding not allowing anyone to kind of take over the conversation.
mhm,
It's understanding and valuing an opinion, valuing where they're coming from, valuing the fact that they want to be supportive. And it's really helping to show them how to do that and being open to it. I think it comes with a lot of openness, and you have to be willing to communicate, and you have to be willing to share some space in order to continue that process. Because sometimes it feels like it's something where we have to be overpowering, or we have to overcompensate in some way in order to get our point across. But that could just be because we're used to the approach of others. Whereas like when we do have our allies who are backing us up, who are supporting us, who are trying to encourage us and help us get to where we deserve to be, essentially, I think it's being able to open up space for them and have them understand how they can contribute.
Thank you. Something which is really nice, you said, where we deserve to be. The word deserve is so powerful, instead of, where we want to be, where we deserve to be. Yeah. Which is really powerful, and it is very, very true. Very, very true. Yeah. But what advice do you have for women who want to work in a male-dominated job like you?
Yes. You have to enter with confidence. You have to enter with confidence, and you have to truly believe in yourself. You have to have that. You have to have that within you. You have to believe in yourself. And when you enter those rooms, in order to not, it was different. When I got started, I was doing a lot of things face to face. Now everything is online. I don't really have to deal with agents face to face very much because it's all on the phone and it's all online. But when I was getting into real estate, I was bringing a piece of paper with me and sitting down at tables across from people who not only have they are males who may have been in the industry for over 30 years, but they had dominated this industry. And here I was at a young age with this paper face to face. And I had to, I had to put on that poker face. I had to build up that confidence in knowing that I know just as much as you do. Right now, the only thing you have on me is time in the industry, but that doesn't make you any better of an agent than who I am and who I know I am. So it's having that belief, and it's also having a seat at the table, creating that space for yourself, because your opinions, your voice, everything that you have to offer and bring to whatever industry you are in is valuable. But before anyone else is going to see that value, you have to believe that you're bringing that value to the table as well. So I think a lot of entering a male dominated space starts from within. It starts a lot from within, and having that confidence in knowing that what you're doing is valuable, and you're going to kind of command that space for yourself. I think it starts with a lot of confidence.
Thank you. So for some women who don't have the confidence to enter that room, what would you say to them? How do you think they would be able to gain that confidence in themselves?
I think a lot of it comes down to whatever industry you're in is really knowing your stuff. I think it comes down to having the background, the understanding. And when you're just getting started, especially in a field like that, it is something where we need to, kind of like what I said, maybe someone may have the experience, they've been in the industry for longer, but you know what? You know your stuff. I think what comes with confidence is when you know what you're speaking about, and when you know your talking points, and when you know what you're bringing to the table, you almost don't need to put on a fake confidence, because you know what you're doing. I think that's something big, is just knowing what you're doing and being prepared, being organized, being prepared, and knowing your stuff. Because naturally, when you know your stuff and you're able to speak, when you know what you're talking about, you'll speak with confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's very, very true. It's knowing your stuff and feeling confidence that you know your stuff.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what they throw at you, you're thinking, you know what? I know
You
what I'm
know
talking.
it.
You may not agree with me, but I know what I'm talking about. You know, it's like having full conviction. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. That is so very true. Because as soon as you know your stuff, nobody could touch you because you know what you're talking about.
You know
You know,
what you're
you
talking about. And it's like
exactly.
you can get rebuttals thrown at you, you can get different debates thrown at you, and it's understanding how to kind of see other people's points of view, but also
Mhm,
still knowing that you know what you're talking about.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
think just having that ability of understanding your stuff and being educated on whatever it is that you are doing
mhm,
and being prepared makes all
mhm.
the difference, because confidence will naturally come out of you because you know.
Yeah, it is very true because there's sometimes, you know, I do, you know, there's, as you said, there's a lot of, we do most things online. And there's sometimes, you know, I've done quite a lot of speaking engagement in India, right? You know, physical, on the line, visual,
Yeah.
you know, and there's sometimes I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is it they want me to talk about? And the minute you know, you get onto the platform and you know your stuff, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what was all this
Yeah.
anxiety about? You know,
That's
and
what you
those are
realize.
people.
Yeah. It's so true. The minute you start going and you realize, you're just like, I know this like the back of my hand.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I think that a lot of that, a lot of confidence comes from just knowing what you're talking about,
mhm,
knowing what it is you're doing, so that when you enter the room, you
mhm,
may still feel intimidated, but
mhm,
you know that when you open your mouth, it's like, oh, never mind.
mhm,
Okay, we'll leave you alone. Like,
mhm.
you got it. You know your stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is very, very true. Thank you for that. What obstacles do women still face today? So, what are some of the obstacles you think you as a woman face today, or women in general face today?
Um, I think still breaking into some areas is still really big, because there still is a lot of stereotype. Um, I do still see that there are still very male dominated areas, and there are still barriers to the fact that things like maternity leave and being off of work and different things that women go through that we still need to deal with, that some male dominated industries they haven't adapted to. I do still feel like those are some obstacles that we face. Um, and again, with mentorship, seeing more people, seeing more women, sorry, in higher ranks, and seeing them like envisioning, like, if I wanted to be a VP of marketing, how many VPs of marketing are there that I can look up to that are
Yes.
females, that are these powerful women, that again, I think a big thing is the access,
Mhm, mhm,
having access to local leaders
mhm,
who we can actually see, touch, hear, email, speak to, get in connection with.
mhm.
I still think that is a big one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is true. Thank you very much for that. The maternity leave comes up in all the shows, which is a real barrier because in some countries, you know, women after 2 weeks they need to go back to work. After 4 weeks they need to go back to work. And you know, it's quite sad because, you know, as the woman on the show said last week, she wasn't ready to let her newborn go to someone she didn't know.
Yeah.
So all that actually forces women to become entrepreneurs, you know, because they're thinking, hold on, there's no way I'm gonna let this child go because this child's not able to navigate themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very true. It's a real barrier, it's a real
It is.
obstacle for us as women. Okay, the final question. I've left a few of them out, but anyway, what can we do to empower young women? Because as a teacher, most of my clients or most of my people are young people because I
Yeah.
teach 16 to 18-year-olds. So how can you empower these young people? What could you say to them?
Empowering young women. Sometimes I think about the words that I would have needed to hear when I was younger. And it is honestly that you have to create a belief system in yourself. You, before you seek outer validation from anybody, you need to be so good with yourself. So I think it's so important to do the self-work, understand your mind, your mindset. I'm a really big advocate for therapy, doing therapy and really understanding yourself so that you get to a point where you do have that inner confidence, because it is something that takes time to build. Some people have it naturally, not everybody. Some people have it naturally, but to believe in yourself, to bet on yourself, and to believe in yourself, because everyone's not going to be your cheerleader, and you need to be okay with that. And it takes some time to get to that point. But I also think that to continue to encourage younger women to go after what they want, to keep pushing forward, I think platforms like what you're doing, Debbie, are so important in creating access, finding mentors, finding people to connect with. And I think a really big thing that I would tell younger audiences is, if someone does inspire you and they're within your network, they're within your community, don't be scared to reach out to them. For me, that was a crippling fear of mine. When I was younger, I was like, I don't want to waste their time. I don't know what I'm going to bring to the table for them. I don't even know if they're going to reply or answer me. Send the message, reach out to them. Because before I got into real estate, I decided to go big or go home. There was a local realtor. She was a female. She hosted a TV show on TLC. And I was just like, well, she's in Toronto. And I had to muster up all of my courage to say, like, hey, I just got my real estate license. I love what you're doing. And I would love to see if you're hiring. Could we have an appointment? And for me to do that single email opened up so many doors for me in connecting with her and meeting with her and even having that conversation. So to any women who are nervous about tapping in to a mentor or learning from somebody, don't be scared to do it, because that email could completely change your life.
Thank you. That is so powerful, because a lot of people is thinking exactly what you said. Oh, I might be wasting my time. They might think I'm wasting the time, etc. And it's really good because you're actually talking from your own experience, how you had to build up that confidence to write that first email. And after that first email, everything came easy, isn't it?
That's what it is. It's just like, it's mustering up that courage. Yeah. But I think being courageous and going after what you want is so important. And that's a big part of betting on yourself. When you allow yourself to really bet on yourself and decide that you are going to succeed, that courage is going to come right along with it, because you know that there's doors and rooms that you need to enter in order to get to where you need to be.
That's so very, very true. That's so very true. Can you give us an experience of you where you actually probably went into a meeting or an area that was predominantly male? Let's say you went into a meeting and they were predominantly male. How did you feel? What were the issues there?
Again, within real estate, I feel like throughout my career, for the most part, I wouldn't say that I've experienced any ill treatment. It is sometimes you need to be more forceful in being heard. And, it's hard because there's that stereotype where you don't want to be the angry one. You don't want to be too forceful, but sometimes you need to take on a level of dominance and a level of kind of speaking up. If something is not right, like being in situations where I couldn't hold back, where I felt like, okay, yeah, I know they've been here for this many years. I know they're the top guy in the company, but I need to be able to voice my opinion. So it's having that kind of, again, it comes down to that courageousness and that confidence to not sit back and let things be that shouldn't be. So I can say that there's been rooms I've been in where I need to be like, no, that's not right. That's wrong. I don't agree with that. We can agree to disagree, but you're going to have to hear what I have to say first.
I love that. I love that. It's interesting though, because as you say, you don't want to be sung in as the angry Black women.
Exactly.
You know, but at the same time, hello, I've got something to say. So you need to hear me.
And that's what it is. It's that, hello, I have something to say.
Yeah.
And we're not ending this meeting yet because I need to say what I got to say.
Yeah.
If it's an agree to disagree, that's fine, but I need to be heard as well.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because there is a way to say that, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's, you know, that's what coming across. It's not demonstrating or becoming the stereotype of the angry Black woman. It's, I've got something to say. And this meeting is not ending until I have my say. You know? So that is really powerful than just, you know, just going over everybody's head and just carrying on. And the next label you get is, oh, typical angry Black woman.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's ways to have the conversation and to be heard, and without feeling like you're lowering yourself, lowering your standards, belittling yourself in any way. There are so many ways to have that conversation and be heard. And it's understanding the different ways to communicate that without feeling like you have to lower or kind of diminish who you are in any way.
That is so, so powerful, because too often the label comes out because how you actually try to address yourself, you did not say, well, okay, I've got something to say. Instead, the temperature increases.
Yes.
And then the label comes out.
Yes.
And, you know, that label becomes very difficult to shake off because the temperature is already high.
Exactly.
You know, it is so interesting in terms of how we say things as women, in terms of how we want them to see us. We thought they're touching the label, because labels comes out very quickly.
They come out very quickly. And it's an unfortunate thing that we have to go through, because the men in the room can have a similar conversation. They can be elevated. They can be however it comes across, but there's nothing that's added to them. But it's finding your way and finding your voice in how you communicate. And I think that comes with the confidence and holding that space and being present and being there, and kind of in every meeting, allowing yourself to at least speak up, have your voice be heard. You may not have much to say in a certain meeting, but always try and say something. Let your voice be heard at all times, so that they know, you know what you're talking about. You also start to build confidence in that way, because now maybe you have a meeting every Wednesday, and every Wednesday you're allowing yourself to speak up. You're being a part of the conversation. Because sometimes sitting back and not being a part of the conversation, when you do become a part of it, that's when it could become difficult.
Yeah. It is. That piece of advice is so beautiful. Always have your say, no matter how small, because all those are nuggets in actually you increasing your confidence. Yes. It's so very true. That's something I remember when I first started teaching and we used to have meetings. I always make it a point that I was going to say something.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter how little. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm really becoming confident.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like every week I made it a point that I was going to say something. Or I was going to ask a question. You know, it might be something I already know the answer because I've asked privately someone else, and I think, no, I'm going to bring it up in this meeting. Let's see how many people feel as I do. And it is so very true. Yeah.
It's so important, because it truly does start to build your confidence. It doesn't matter how big or small what you have to say is. If every meeting you are contributing and you're speaking and you're not holding back, you're being present. Allowing yourself to be present allows yourself to be shown in the room, because now it's not like, oh, there's Karen in the corner, not saying anything, just listening. It's like, no, I'm in the forefront, I have things to say and I have things to contribute as well. So that helps to build up my confidence, because sometimes when you're not asking the question, you're not getting the answers that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be other people in the room who are too scared to ask the question, and you asking it has now helped them as well.
Yeah.
That helps you create partnerships. That helps you
Yeah.
interact with other people as well. Because they're like, hey, thank you for asking that. Because I was going to, but I was like a little nervous. But thank you for like speaking up. It's like, oh, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. In terms of, you know, I could see that in my classroom when I say to students, I want you guys to talk. And it's like the fear of the first one talking. And
Yes.
it's like they all want to ask the question, but nobody want to take the first, make the first move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is so very true. Thank you for that. We almost finished. Finally, what would you like to leave our audience with as a woman, as an empowered woman? You know, you've actually said how you became empowered, etc., the job you did, etc. So what would you like to, you know, what's the one or two things you would like to say in terms of a tip? It could be one or two tips you like to leave us with, or points you like to leave us with. It doesn't matter.
I think my few tips would be to always bet on yourself, regardless of seeking exterior validation. Always know that it comes down to what you are willing to do for you in order to create what you consider to be success.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also say that, like I said before, if there are people who you look up to that are within your community, people who are doing amazing things, I think a part of uplifting each other is sending that message, letting them know as well that you see them, and then opening up that dialogue and being comfortable to do that, because I think starting those conversations helps us lift each other up, helps us open ourselves up to be mentored. Sometimes it's great to find a mentor, but you need to be able to be mentored. You need to be able to also be a student. I think that's a big one in being teachable, being able to be a student and being open to learning. But it always is going to come down to you being able to bet on yourself and believe in yourself, so that you can continue to hold space in the spaces where we need to be.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Karen, for accepting the offer to come on and sharing your journey with us in relationship to how you became empowered and what actually you do that make you, you know, become this empowered, powerful woman. Thank you for sharing. It's been a fantastic session. Greatly appreciated, and I'm sure my audience have also appreciated it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
It was fantastic. I'm really grateful that you accept the offer to come on to share your empowerment journey, because too often we have those, you know, challenges, those areas we work in, and we don't share it.
Yes.
It is so important that we share our empowerment journey, because there's certain areas where we have been that have actually made us to become empowered and make us become who we are.
Yes.
And it's interesting that, because when you share it, other women look at you and think, oh my goodness, I could do that too. Yep. And, you know, I could send that email. I wanted to send that email, but oh my goodness, I was so frightened. But now I can, because I know someone else who did. Yes. You know, so all those tips are fantastic in terms of.
It comes down to that mentorship and seeing people doing the things that we're scared to do. When you have access to seeing people who have done it, it makes it feel like it's so much more attainable for you as well. So I think it's so important.
Yeah. And it's not beyond your reach. It is really within your reach, not beyond, within your reach. You know. Exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And remember, I've got a show not on Friday this week. I've got a show on Saturday, and I've got one on Sunday. Saturday is the female empowerment. Sorry. Saturday is the female education roundtable. I'm forgetting what I'm doing, right? Where I'm speaking to female across the world who would be sharing their journey with us going back into education after COVID. And on Sunday, which was going to be the Friday show, because Friday I'm going to the theater, right? So Friday show is now Saturday, is now Sunday, where we'll be talking to someone who is home educating the child and children, so that they could share their journey with us, tell us some of the ups and downs, because even though you're educating your child at home, it's not always rosy. You know, there are the ups and downs, because your child sometimes is saying to you, you're not my teacher, and all the challenge that comes with it. So sometimes parents have to de-school themselves from the education they were taught themselves, so they could actually start allowing the child to learn where they're at. You know, we all learn from different ways. We all learn at different speed, different journey. We just have to allow them to be themselves and be uniquely them. So that's my show for the week. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys on